It goes without saying that the M249 is an iconic gun throughout games and movies. So the idea of a Nerf version of the saw is an absolutely awesome idea. Introducing the Mr. Heath Pants LMG from Frontline Foam. This blaster is truly a work of art, and I'm really excited to get my hands on one. In today's video, we're gonna talk about all the features of this blaster. I wanna spend a little bit of time to talk about some tips and tricks about running one of these blasters. So with that said, let's jump right into the video. So what is the MHP LMG? Well, it's a flywheel, dual-staged, belt-fed, full auto blaster that runs off 2S or 3S and is just an absolutely blast to play with. Now, if you would like to pick up this blaster, head on over to Frontline Foam. Special thanks to Frontline Foam for providing this review model in today's video. These are very expensive, but I'm gonna explain why it's worth every penny. Starting off with the performance. Let's grab some chronograph readings. 153.7, 135.2, 124.5, and 137.2. Now this blaster has dual stage, so it has a wide range of builds. You can go all the way down to around 120, all the way up to over 200 FPS, depending on your play style. My current blaster is under 150 because I potentially, as crazy as it sounds, want to run this in our local events. And we have a cap of 150 FPS. And that leads us into the practicality of running a belt-fed blaster in your local wars or events. And I'm gonna have to say, it is very satisfying, but keep in mind, you are now littering the battlefield with more stuff to pick up. So just be mindful of that and either use a catch bag or just be very helpful in picking up your mess. But other than that, it's a blast. Let's go over some of the issues I had. But before we do that, let's talk about your general operation. As we can see, this is a belt-fed blaster, so it comes with a 50 round belt. Now everything has to be loaded in the correct orientation, and darts are pretty important as well. Through our testing, I found if the dart is a little bit too wide, and if it slides into the chain as too much resistance, it's probably gonna cause a jam or just not fire. So I found that the actual Dart Zone darts, Adventure Force Pro darts, and also the red Target Dart Zone darts worked very well. And I believe it's because the foam body on those are a little bit smaller. Something I absolutely love about this build is that the chain links are actually made in TPU. Now this is a Pro and a Con, the Pro being they are extremely durable. You can step on them and they're not gonna break. The con is TPU printing is extremely difficult, and with that said, these chains don't look too bad for TPU. Now, if there's any blemishes or imperfections in your chain, I ended up going through it with an X-Acto knife and just cutting off any bumps or anything that was kind of irregular in the chain. You wanna make sure that dart slides in and out with a little bit of resistance because you don't want your chain falling apart, but yet not too much because then it won't push into the flywheels. So just keep that all in mind. Also on the chain, there's a little arrow. As you build the chains, you need to make sure that they are faced in the right direction. If you mix this up, you will also possibly get some misfeeds. And for the last area to talk about, my blaster, when I received it, didn't really have much lube in it. And this blaster, let me show you, the indexing mechanism at the front here, it's all spring loaded, but as you can see, there's a lot of parts on parts moving throughout this operation, including down in here with the pusher arm and all this section down here. You can see there's just a lot of part on part moving. I highly recommend putting some type of slug slime or just some type of lubrication in there. It's very important. And on top of that, I'd actually maintain this thing, make sure it's cleaned out. You don't want any gunk in here, any debris or whatnot, and you want this to have a nice smooth motion. So we spent a little time to lube this up, and it made a big difference. We had a lot less misfeeds and jams. Now the last thing to talk about is I actually ran a bunch of Dart Zone Pro darts through this that were extremely worn, and that can be a problem because obviously when the foam is weak, the chain falls apart and also it doesn't feed well. So keep that in mind. Your dart has to be somewhat new. So with all that said, many of you are probably like, oh wow, that sounds like a lot of frustration and headache. But here's the benefit of all this. You're playing with a Nerf saw. I'll deal with all that in a heartbeat if I can just run around with this thing and play this in a war, because it is so satisfying. It's a ton of fun. And then we even messed around with a 100-link chain, just walking around with 100 shots. There's no other way to put it, but it's pretty badass. Well, that pretty much covers everything. If you'd like to pick one of these up, use our affiliate link down in the description. It helps the channel tremendously. As always, I'm DrFlux. I want to thank you for watching today's video. Be safe and happy foam flinging.